If it's your first time visiting Universal Orlando, it's really exciting going in and seeing what all the parks have to offer. But there are some tips that you want to take advantage of going into the parks so that way you can make the most of your visit. And today I want to share with you 5 tips to help you with your first visit to Universal Orlando. So let's go ahead and get on into these tips. The first tip I have for you is to download the Universal Orlando app on your mobile device. This is a very handy app to have that will help you check wait times. You can see where restaurants are located. There's a park map in case you aren't super familiar with the layout of the Universal parks. All you have to do is to create an account on the Universal app, which is very easy. You can check the park hours, you can actually purchase tickets, make dining reservations, check wait times. As you can see, there is a list of some of the rides that are in the Universal Park. Right now, the wait times are very, very low, but it's very easy for you to just quickly check some of the wait times in the parks. And it also has a drop-down menu where you can scroll through and see every ride at Universal and see if they are delayed, if they're closed, for planning purposes, so that way you know when to actually go and ride some of the rides. It's a very handy and helpful app to have. I highly recommend downloading it. The second tip I have for you caught me off guard whenever I first went to Universal, and that is to prepare to use lockers. Now, if you're planning on bringing a bag to Universal, a lot of times for most of the rides in the Universal parks, you actually will have to put all of your belongings in a locker in order to get onto the ride. They do this so that way nothing falls out on some of the rides, since they are more coaster-based attractions. They don't want any of your belongings falling out on the ride, and to keep you and the rest of the riders safe. So there are separate lockers that you can put all of your bags and belongings in whenever you're at Universal. These are free lockers, but they do have much larger lockers that you can purchase. I believe it's $2 a time that you use the lockers. The reason why I also say this is because the free lockers are only a certain size. And if you're planning on bringing a large backpack with you, you want to make sure that it is going to actually fit in the lockers, so that way you can avoid paying for the much larger locker and you know ahead of time that your bag will actually fit into the locker. To access the lockers, you'll just use your park ticket, or you can actually scan it on the app. There's a way that you can access the lockers. It's very easy, and it is no charge for you for the complimentary lockers unless you want to use the larger lockers. There have been a lot of times that I have seen guests try to cram things inside of the lockers, so it's nice ahead of time having an idea of how big they actually are so you can properly size your belongings for it. This is also good to give you an idea of when you may want to do shopping, because if you purchase a lot of things and want to still ride rides, you might not have enough space inside the locker to fit all of your belongings. So it's just a good thing to know ahead of time that you will have to use lockers for some of the rides, and some of the rides do even require you to put all of your belongings in it, like your cell phone, any watches you may have, keys, so that way nothing falls out on the ride. Third tip I have for you is to use single rider lines. The one thing I really appreciate about Universal Orlando is they have single rider lines for a lot of their rides, which can really help you to cut down on wait times when in the parks. Essentially what a single rider line is for some of the Universal rides, they have a separate line where if you are okay riding by yourself or splitting up from your party, you will actually be filled in with any empty seats that are on the ride from the original standby line. This is very handy because majority of the time the single rider lines are very, very quick compared to the actual longer standby times. So this can really easily allow you to hop on and off rides and maximize the times that you have in the Universal parks. I do want you to note though that if you are planning on doing the single rider line and you have a large party of people with you, you will most likely be split up from them and you will have to ride with other park guests. So make sure that you know that ahead of time so you aren't surprised by it whenever you get to the front of the line and you are split up from your party. But it's a very easy way that you can hop on and off rides. Fourth tip I have for you is to plan out your visit. There is so much to see and do when you are at Universal Orlando, and you will want to make sure that you are making the absolute most of your time and know ahead of time what all is offered when you are going to the parks. The amount of times that I see guests go there and they find something that they didn't even know was there, or they get to the end of their evening figuring out that there's something that they wanted to do that they didn't know was there and don't have time to do, happens more often than I would like it to see. So I recommend planning out your visit ahead of time. Come up with some must-do rides, experiences, characters you'd like to meet, so that way you can absolutely do it whenever you are at the parks. Also, go and familiarize yourself with the map of both of the parks so that way you know where everything is located, so you don't have to try to figure out where it's at whenever you are actually at the parks. Figure out what rides are there, what characters are there, where the characters are actually at, so that way you can hit the ground running when you're in the parks to absolutely make the most of your time. And the fifth and final tip I have for you is to prepare for the weather. This is one that has definitely gotten me a lot of times, and I know it's happened to a lot of park guests, but not being properly prepared for Florida weather is a very big mistake in itself. What I like to do is I like to look at the weather a week out from when I'm going to the parks, or the actual day that I am going to the parks, to get an idea of what the weather is actually looking like. Then I know what kind of clothes I need to wear, what kind of gear I need to bring with me, so that way I'm prepared to keep going about my day whenever at Universal, regardless of what happens with the weather. A really helpful thing that I recommend is definitely regarding rain. If you're visiting during the summertime, it will most likely rain at least once during your visit, and I've seen a lot of Universal park guests get caught in the rain and they are absolutely soaked and miserable for the rest of the day. So it's very handy bringing either rain ponchos, umbrellas, having waterproof clothing or waterproof shoes, or shoes that can either dry very easily. Or if you are visiting during the Florida winter, it is very surprising, but Florida can get chilly at times during January and February. It's not uncommon for it to get down to around 40 degrees. I know a lot of guests get very caught off guard by it because it's Florida. They think it's a lot warmer than it's going to be. And to avoid going into some of the gift shops and having to spend an absurd amount of money on a sweatshirt, I recommend bringing layers, having a hoodie that you could put on or a jacket that you could put on and take off. I absolutely love bringing layers during that time. So if you know when you are going to be visiting Universal, take a look at the weather so that way you can properly plan ahead of time and keep making the most of your visit. But if it's your first time visiting Universal, you'll want to make sure that you're doing some of the must-do experiences when at the park. And here's a video of 5 things you must do when visiting Universal Orlando. I hope you have an awesome visit to Universal. It's an amazing park. Let me know in the comment section below if you have any other questions for your first visit there, and we'll see you in the next video. See you guys!